Alrighty. We are in. We are in. How's it going, everybody out there? Thank you guys for logging on with us. My name is Chris Carney, for those of you who don't know, and I am here with my handsome business partner, Alec Gagne. He's got his party shirt on today. That's how much fun we're about to have. And
want to be on the golf course, really.
But, yeah, we should be. It is. We're in the middle of August here, into the dog days of summer. We're trying to get closer and closer to school starting for most parents out there and getting back into a normal routine. But this info just could not wait. This is super, super important for all of you real estate agents out there. If you're not a real estate agent, you are in the wrong place. Real estate agents, stick around. This is a ton of really, really important info. Not a lot of people are talking about it, but this is some of the bigger changes that we've seen in the condo market and in the condo industry, really in the past several years. These are some really, really big changes. So good for you for being here to learn more about it. Any comments or questions or things that don't make sense as we're going, please do feel free to post in the chat here. Whoever is not talking, me or Alec, will be monitoring the chat, and we can make sure we get any of those questions addressed and answered. You guys are lucky because you have the brains of the operation here with you today, Alec and myself. Rob couldn't be here today, but don't worry, Alec and I are the brains that actually make everything go here on the condo side. Rob will say he's the condo king. However, we are the boots on the ground here, and we know all the changes inside and out. So you guys are in the best of hands with Alec and myself. So we're going to dive right in, and we're going to get into these changes. So these condo changes, why should you care as the realtor? Well, there's a couple of really important things to note here. This is maybe the scariest stat of all. We're diving right in. 65% of condo loans within the past year were processed using a limited review or a streamlined review. If this is the first time you've heard those words, believe me, you have had deals in the past that have closed that have used a streamlined or a limited review. If you've done more than 2 condo deals in your career, the odds are that you've had a deal close with the limited or streamlined review. Well, guess what, guys? The limited and streamlined review are now gone. August 3rd, you see that date right there in the middle? We're past that. So that means streamlined and limited condo reviews are gone. Absolutely gone. So this means if you closed a deal in a condo building last month or several months ago, that doesn't mean that it's going to be as easy from now on. And we'll talk more about that, but these are some really important stats and numbers, dates for you to know. One of the other really big ticket items here is the minimum reserve requirements. So anytime lenders review, condo budget, condo numbers, financials, there's been a 10% minimum reserve requirement. Well, that 10% is now increasing to 15. So 15% 15% reserves are going to be required as of January 2027. So that one is kind of the only change that hasn't gone into effect yet. Everything else that we're talking about is right now as we speak here on August 18th, 2026. Okay. So what does this mean for you guys though? Like, again, you're here because you want to learn more and make sure that you're not going to have a deal fall apart last second, but here's what it means for you. So this is condo financing is becoming a bigger part of your conversations up front with buyers, with, listing appointments or conversations that you're having with people looking to list their condo. Really, really important information here. So this new full review that's going to be going on. So again, before August 3rd, these limited and streamlined reviews were happening all the time. Lenders could go around the financials. There were creative ways where we could get around if a client had a certain amount down, or if they, depending on their file, depending on the loan, there were a ton of different avenues that lenders could take to do that limited or streamlined review. That was before. And again, that was that 65% statistic where most of the condo deals out there we're using this limited streamlined review, but no longer. So what does that mean now? Well, full reviews are needed. That means there's not going to be a real way around these financials and lenders reviewing the condo budget. So this is a huge change. This is going to have a huge impact on your buyers and on your clients that are going to be looking to sell their condos here over the next few years. So huge difference with now having the full review be a mandatory requirement in most cases. Stick around to hear some shortcuts there. Now, here are things that can affect your deal, right? So what actually changes for you all? Well, when lenders are reviewing these financials, what are we looking at? Well, the reserves, we kind of already touched on that, right? So are the reserves at or above 15%? That's a huge thing that we're going to be looking at as the lender on a condo deal. Are we at 15 or more percent in reserves? Special assessments. That's something that has kind of been a little bit more relevant lately, where condo associations will issue special assessments. Special assessments can be a one-time thing, or they can be for a certain amount of time. For example, I have a condo in DC where last year, maybe 2 years ago, a special assessment was issued for like a major repair that had to be done. And it increased everyone's condo fees by a certain amount for 4 months. So it wasn't just like a one-time thing or a 1 month thing. It was spread out over a couple months. So when we're looking at special assessments, we're looking at how much is it and how long of a duration is it put in place for. Also, what is it for, right? So special assessments are going to be a sticking point too that we're going to look at. And a lot of times it's going to be as a result of that third bullet point there. Repairs, deferred maintenance. Again, if you've done a condo deal in the past year or year and a half, you've probably heard about repairs, deferred maintenance. That has been a huge sticking point for Fannie and Freddie over the past year or so. Really, as a result of that condo that collapsed in Florida a few years back, there's been a lot of trickle down that is now affecting everybody nationwide that's looking to buy a condo. So repairs, deferred maintenance, huge sticking point. So really, these three things are the top, I would say. Top three things for you to be mindful of when you're either taking on a condo listing, or you're working with a buyer who is interested in submitting offers on condos. So again, what does this mean for you? Realtor takeaway. This is your takeaway as the agent. Don't wait for us. Don't wait for underwriting to find this all out. Let's do our research as early on in the process as we can. All right. Now, the 15% reserve change that, again, it's not in place right now as of August 18th, 2026. This goes into effect January 2027. Now, some lenders are putting this into place right now, just to be extra cautious. But Fannie and Freddie are allowing most folks to wait until January. Now, what does this mean? So just about all the condo associations in the area for the past several years, if not more, have been focused on 10% reserves. All of a sudden it changes to 15. Most condo associations have not been budgeting for 15. They've only been budgeting for 10. So what is the impact on these condo owners? Well, it's going to be an increase in fees, right? They have to catch up. These condo associations, they have to find more money, and it's not just sitting around in their budget already. Otherwise, they would have reported it, right? So they're going to be increasing condo associations across the DMV, across the nation, but the DMV specifically, they're going to be increasing fees. That's going to either just be an increase in condo fees or a special assessment to address that gap in the reserves. Condo owners, as of now, if it hasn't happened yet, it will be happening to them very soon. So your past clients or folks that own condos, they're going to see an increase in their monthly fees or a special assessment hit very, very soon. Now, something really, really important to note here. 15% is the number, right? 15% reserves. You'll see I even highlighted and bolded this super important note here to make sure you know how super important this is. this is something that happens more than you would think. Okay, so 15% reserves is the number, right? That's the guideline. That's what's in place. But here's the asterisk, you guys, and this is very, very important. If the reserve study recommends more than 15%, that's the new number. Okay, so it's 15% unless a reserve study says they need more. This is really more common than you think. A lot of these older buildings, that have been around for decades, that require a lot of maintenance, a lot of repairs. If you've had a reserve study done in the past couple of years, a lot of times they're asking for more than 15. And if they do, that's the new number that all lenders have to use. So again, getting as much of this information up front is going to be crucial for you guys, the realtors, to have a smooth transaction. And when you're talking with potential buyers or even your sellers, the psychology of this is not, it's not just higher dues, right? It's not everything is increasing, your monthly fees are increasing, everything's higher. We have to explain that, a lot of times, right now, this increase in fees, it's going to be very much temporary in most cases in order for these condo associations to get to that reserve requirement. So it's not just your dues are higher, it's explaining that the association is doing what they have to do so that your unit and your building remains eligible for financing in the future. So it is ultimately for their, best interest. But it's just informing them, right? It's informing your clients, your buyers, your sellers. The reserve study. So if anyone has seen a reserve study, these are like hundreds of pages long. These are like Harry Potter novels of information that you're not going to read through. Lenders get to read through them, which is super fun for us. So all that you guys really need to know about reserve studies is if it's been done in the past 3 years, so the past 36 months, we have to use it. So again, that's going to come into play with these reserve requirements more than anything else. The thing to note about reserve studies is that they are super conservative. Okay, they're not just going to say, hey, here's the cheapest, easiest way to do this. They're saying over a 30-year period, here is the most conservative and the highest recommended funding plan in order for this building to stay, in a good condition. So again, not that you have to read through a whole reserve study, but just know those are being analyzed and reviewed in much more scrutiny now. So get your hands on one. If you have a listing coming up, if you are looking to take on a condo listing, get your hands on the reserve study. Send them to your preferred lender partner right here and let us review it so that we can take a look at all that stuff. It's a really great listing prep question, especially if you're getting grilled by someone who's maybe interviewing a couple of realtors, or you just want to become a true expert here. Condo, you could be extremely valuable to anyone looking to sell their condo by asking some of the right questions here. And making sure that you are not instilling fear, certainly, but instilling confidence that you can ask all of those right questions. So, because a lot of realtors aren't asking these questions, guys, and you're not underwriters, you're not lenders. We're not asking you to do a ton of homework. We're just asking you to ask the questions, right? So that make life easier for you, but it'll also show a ton of value to these clients that you'd be looking to take on. Okay. So how can this put more money in your pocket? Well, you're basically doing your homework first. I was actually talking about all of this with an agent that I work closely with and work with a lot of condos on earlier this week, and they said, all right, so Chris, this really sucks for me because now I have to actually do my homework. So that's a really great way to put it. It's not meant to scare you. It's not meant to make life harder on you as the agent, but you can't just show up and hope that it goes well. You're really setting yourself up for potential roadblocks, disasters that way. All of these changes, it's similar to the commission, all of the commission changes last year, right? Not a whole lot changed for you probably, right? It was just how the conversation happened up front and the communication and doing your homework early about setting the proper expectations for buyer paid commission. This is a very similar idea. This isn't meant to make your life harder, But these condo changes could really affect things if we don't do our homework early. So do your homework early, and that's asking the right question. So spot that risk as early in the process as we can. Prep your sellers. We have a really good takeaway that we'll talk about later on in the presentation here that can help you prepare your past clients, your sellers, people that you've already helped buy a condo. Maybe they want to sell it, in a few years or someday soon. We have something for you to provide them that will help prep them and get that process started. Number 3, reduce the surprises. Again, the more info that we can have up front, the less likely we are to see those curveballs later. And then number 4, becoming the guide. Again, if you're taking on a listing or talking to someone, say, hey, I closed a deal, in this building in March, no issues. It really just is not setting exactly the right expectation anymore because of these changes. It could be a good sign, certainly, but it's not the end all be all. You're not going to have any issues like it has been over the past couple of years if you've done a deal in a building. These things can change. Fannie and Freddie are staying really on top of a lot of these key items that they're looking for. So what's the realtor takeaway? Again, as the agent, how does this affect me in my business? Your competitive advantage or your edge, you don't have to know the guides. Like, you don't have to memorize things. You don't have to read reserve studies. You just have to know what to ask and upfront, right? So it just changes your dialogue and your scripts a little bit. But there is good stuff, and I want Alec to share some of the good news here too.
Perfect. Yeah, I got the easier portion of this and giving good news. So, and can you tell Chris has 3 kids? He told you to do your homework about 10 times in this presentation. But yeah, so previously when a condo project, if that's what you want to call it, was 4 units or under, you wouldn't need to do anything, right? The good news is that amount of units has increased to 10. So that actually opens up the door pretty substantially to good news, right? Second good news here, the investor ratio requirement is now gone. So previously, you had to have at least 50% owner-occupied ratio in a condo project if someone was purchasing a second home and or an investment property. That's gone. So we have run into those issues many times, in the DC market and some of our other, locations and kind of, more vacation-like spots for condos. So that is now gone, and that is great because it does, again, open up the door to more options and conventional financing as opposed to some other stuff, which I'll get into. ICM shortcut review. So we still have a shortcut review for condo projects that have existing Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac approval that are still active. Now, when that expires, then we're going back to the same slides that Chris had mentioned previously. So with all that being said, there are still going to be condo projects that have existing approvals out there, and we can still go through a shortcut review in that scenario. And, the takeaway here is, yeah, condos, if you want to say they're harder, that's kind of the glass, half empty approach. But the glass half full approach is be super knowledgeable, and we need to do our homework, again, out of the gate. So everyone's life is easier, including the sellers. Of course, selling a home is super, super stressful, and it's our jobs to make that much easier for you guys. And that's kind of the whole point of this presentation. So we'll go on to the next slide.
I have a question before we move on. Right here.
Yep.
Me up front. Alec, I'm a real estate agent, and I don't know if a project is Fannie or Freddie approved. What should I do? Who should I talk to about that? How do I find out?
You should absolutely email Rob, Chris, or myself. And we have a dedicated condo department here at Intercoastal. It's actually a pretty massive differentiator of ours that amongst all the others here at Intercoastal. Brittany Riffle, she is all things. She's the condo queen. We'll put it that way. So anytime I have a client that's even out there searching for a home, and one's a townhouse and one's a condo, and they want to see 2 estimates, guess what I'm doing for that condo? I'm sending that listing directly to Brittany, and she's giving me a full breakdown and doing her diligence on the back end to see, one, do we have existing Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac approval? And do we have a streamline or a shortcut opportunity for that? Or are we going to need all the blood samples and hair follicles for the condo? So great question. All right. So this is a pretty short slide here. Buyer conversation, set expectations, don't create fear. Again, this presentation is here to arm you so that when you go in to a listing appointment and you are competing against another agent, having this information and you're asking the right questions and explaining to that seller more than the other agent that's not educated on this and has not gone through this presentation, which again, we'll send you some takeaways, you're going to differentiate yourself. So, again, it's the more documentation up front, it's earlier in the transaction, it's fewer curveballs at closing because of the legwork and homework that you're completing out of the gate. So again, connecting with, the buyer with us out of the gate as soon as possible is when we are throwing that baton over to Brittany at our condo department, and we're getting the full scope of exactly what that condo looks like and what our options are. All right, here's a good checklist for you guys to keep in mind. So kind of just going through what Chris said, earlier in the presentation, your operating budget, the special assessments, the insurance coverage, that's a huge thing. And actually the inflation guard, Chris, I believe has gone away for insurance. So that is something that actually came up a handful of times earlier in this year, where if there was an inflation guard on the insurance for the development, then they had to have it. Essentially. So that is now gone. So insurance actually got a little bit easier. This is part of some of the good news. And then of course the reserves, the major repairs, deferred maintenance, the project size, is it over or under 10 units? If it's 10 units or under, we're having a good time and it's going to be a lot easier. So, again, these are just little takeaways to bring to your listing agreement or listing presentation with that seller. And also for your buyers, this isn't just about you and your listing. This is also about your buyer, so that you're not getting a phone call from us, which would never happen because we're very diligent, but halfway through the process being like, this cannot be done. We're doing our diligence up front because we're very thorough. And that's why getting, that condo to us as soon as possible with the buyer and also educating them is going to be crucial in the transaction. All right. So what to say to a condo seller? Before we list, I want to understand your association's financial picture. Your buyer's lender may take more closely look at the reserves. Again, kind of going through all of the parameters and the changes. Again, very surface level. We're not asking you to do a full underwrite of the reserve study. But again, arming you just to be enough, dangerous enough to have the right information to relay. If dues or reserves are changing, let's understand why and the timing. I'll help you organize the right questions. The lender will determine financing eligibility. So again, kind of an overall, checklist of all that and the right things to say, asking the right questions. Again, it doesn't have to be the blood samples and hair follicles, but it's getting some of that surface level stuff that will arm your lender too, to help you out and make sure your condo is good to go. All right, 5-minute condo conversation. So again, running through those questions, I would say take a screenshot of this. We'll send it out. But how many units are in the project? This is all pretty surface level stuff. What is the current operating budget? What is the reserve funding plan? Are there current or planned special assessments? Kind of what we just went through. What has changed with insurance or project finances recently? Again, you're not the underwriter, but we want you to be prepared and just enough dangerous to make sure that we can determine if you're non-warrantable or not, and what we need to make sure that condo ultimately works. This is going to be huge. I mean, just from a business development perspective, if you guys, go into a condo project that you're pretty familiar with, or you have sold some, recent listings in there, you go to the condo association, maybe become the preferred listing agent that really knows exactly what's going on, get them prepared so that if there are issues that they're going to be able to sell units in that building and make their life easier. Now, to round it all out, we have every option here at Intercoastal Mortgage. We have non-warrantable condo, products. Our portfolio product, I can't tell you how many calls that Chris and I get when it's a week before settlement and we get a call, hey, I heard you guys are the Condo Kings and you can make magic with condos. That's because of our portfolio product. So if it's not Fannie or Freddie approved and we go through all the rigmarole, and it's just considered non-warrantable, whether that's commercial space, right? If the bottom half of the condo is, you know, a Panera Bread and a coffee shop, and that's what's making it non-warrantable, we still have options for that. The other thing to keep in mind, if someone is doing, you know, 3 to 5% down conventionally, and buying the condo, if there's existing FHA approval and Fannie and Freddie has not approved it, we can supersede that and go straight through FHA, because FHA approval, as long as it's valid and the date is still good, we can lend on that. So having a lender such as us, and you guys all know us, but understanding the intricacies to a condo, but also being able to pivot and get very creative with other kind of loan products is going to, again, put more money in your pocket and make sure that a condo transaction is not as stressful as it could be. So
that is a huge takeaway for anyone listening still, and not turning their attention elsewhere. And this is not written down in this presentation anywhere. So this is like going to class in college and your professor saying that one of the answers to the test is if you show up. Well, that's what this is. FHA saves the day. So even if a client has an 800 credit score, you know, 5% or 10% down, whatever it is, FHA still might make the most sense here. If a project is FHA approved, we could be in a really good spot. So that's a really good thing that Alec just mentioned that is not written down anywhere. So make notes as you're listening here. FHA can save the day. Well said. And just to reiterate, our portfolio here at Intercoastal Mortgage, we can get around a lot of these issues if they are in fact issues. Like if the project is not Fannie or Freddie approved, like what do we do? What do we do once we're stuck? Which is going to happen. You need to talk to Alec, myself, or Rob and figure out if the portfolio is kind of that get out of jail free card where, you know, it's going to be something creative that we could possibly do. So very well said. And one more slide for Alec to talk through here, and then we'll open it up to any other questions that are out there.
Okay, so part of this is a sweet treat from us, and that's going to be giving you guys some, we're going to give you a one-page kind of breakdown that's a kind of a realtor cheat sheet, but there's a caveat to that. You got to email us, and we can co-brand it. We can do whatever you'd like with it, but ultimately, you know, shoot us an email. We can get you that realtor cheat sheet, the condo seller ready guide. So, you know, just because you attended doesn't mean that you're, it's going to be automatically distributed. We'd love to do that, but, obviously reach out to us with anything. And whether that's this particular takeaway, the realtor cheat sheet and the guide, or if you guys have, you know, open houses, we're always happy to come and monitor those with you and hang out with you. But also in addition to that, if you guys need open house, flyers, we can make those very, very easily. As well. And we can, you know, put verbiage in there depending on, you know, what the condo looks like. But, you know, shoot us an email. We're obviously here and happy to help, you know, 7 days a week. We're trying to just get this out there. I feel like not enough people are talking about it. I mean, condos progressively get harder almost every year, and that's me, you know, cup half empty. But, you know, that's why you got to be armed with the education. But this wasn't a completely bad news presentation. There's a lot of great news too, especially the investor ratio. I think that's huge. You know, so
exactly. And we will send out our cheat sheet. So we do have a one pager that, you know, kind of summarizes a bunch of the stuff that we talked about here, you know, kind of surface level, but it'll be a really nice resource for you. We'll send that out, you know, via email or, you know, text to everyone that attended here today. So you'll have that. And the reason why we are asking you to email us about the seller ready guide is because it's co-branded. So it's going to have your info on there too. And, you know, we don't, as much as we love you guys, you know, we can't make like 25 different things and send it to people if they're not actually going to use it, right? Like we want you to use it, but just let us know so that we can, you know, make sure that it has all your info, your headshot, you know, co-branded with your stuff, because when you send it to your past clients, obviously they're going to know who you are, and we want them to, you know, continue to think of you as their trusted resource for when they are looking to sell. So, you know, just let us know so that, you know, when we take the time to, you know, put it all together, we know that you're actually going to use it. And one other note too, because I got during this presentation, one of the agents on here emailed me. So I want to make this very clear. This is for condos, right? This is a condo presentation. Co-ops have a different set of rules, unfortunately. So any co-ops, they're not following the same stuff here. This is not Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. Co-ops have a completely different, guideline, that they follow. So, so if you have co-op listings or co-op, buyers that are looking at co-ops, that's not going to follow this exactly. They would need to talk to a lender that specializes in co-op financing. We do not do that. We are just condos here.
We do everything minus two things, and that's co-ops and reverse mortgages. Everything else, we do. And I want to give a gold star to Lauren, who just emailed, I think, the first to the admin Ross group email. So we'll get that taken care of for you. Thank you, Lauren.
Shout out to Lauren. Great questions. Head spinning. You guys know where to find us if you do. So contact your favorite loan officer as things come up. But seriously, you guys, think of how many realtors are out there that have no idea about this, and then also will not do any of the preparation needed when a condo comes up. We have been our team, we have bailed people out of condo deals a ton, over the years. Like, that's just something that we have, been able to do. And now I think it's going to happen even more than ever before. So thank you guys for coming. You know where to reach us if you have questions. We'll get, some of this info out to you, so that, you're armed with as much info as possible. And, let us know. We're ready to close the year strong, and happy to help with anything that you guys need every step of the way. We appreciate you. And remember, the Ross Group is always working together to serve you guys better. Let's go get them.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.